We'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are on the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, peoples. We are grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and play on these lands. So thank you for being here today. My name is Megan and I'm the host for the session. I work at the City of Vancouver as an engineer. And we are very excited to have you be part of our Women Deliver Satellite Sessions, a 4-day special event focused entirely on gender equality, filled with thought-provoking discussions, workshops, and much, much more. It's hosted by the City of Vancouver and put on with the generous support of the Vancouver Public Library. So a couple of housekeeping items. So the washrooms are located on this floor. They're just around this bend here, essentially behind us. We are live streaming this, just so you are aware. And last but not least, you will notice there is no microphone, so we are using our natural voices to amplify. So if you are asking a question, please make sure you also speak loudly. So after this session, we would like to invite you to visit an exhibition on the 8th floor, so one floor down, titled Women Deliver Cities. This display documents the work of 24 local artists, female artists, for whom the built environment is both their subject matter and their field of action. So if you have some time, please be sure to check that out. And right now, I would like to introduce you to our moderator, who is here to lead us through the session. So I'd like to introduce you to Marisa. So Marisa is the Director of Green Operations at the City of Vancouver Engineering Services Department, where she works on innovation and sustainability for the city's fleet and equipment, construction safety, construction material operations, and engineering administrative functions. Marisa's career spans multiple years of public sector experience in transportation, operations, and planning in both Canada and the United States. Marisa is a graduate of the American Public Transportation Association's Leadership, ATPTA program, which identifies leaders in the transportation field. In addition, she is a former board member of the Women's Transportation Seminar, an international organization that supports the advancement of women in transportation and infrastructure. Marisa has served as the senior manager for long-range transportation planning with the City and County of San Francisco, and prior to that as TransLink's senior manager for strategic planning, leading the development of the Mayor Council's vision for regional transportation investments and major infrastructure projects such as the Broadway Millennium Line Extension and Surrey's LRT projects. She also previously served as senior management of system planning, working on multimodal transportation projects for our region. Marisa has degrees in policy, politics, and economics from Stanford University and in urban planning from the University of California, Los Angeles. In her spare time, she enjoys hiking and volunteering for leadership and environmental groups. Please join me in welcoming her.
Thank you, everyone. I'd like to just kick us off and introduce our incredible panel today. So I'm here with two amazing women trailblazers at work, and we're really here today to talk informally about how are you a trailblazer in your field, in your role, and what sort of advice and guidance can you bring. So I'm really excited to have them at this special Trailblazers event. We have a very diverse group of women today, and I'm really looking forward to them talking about their careers. I just wanted to note that we were unable to be joined by one of our panelists, Amanda Boire, who is very involved in work in the Sudan, and there are things happening today that kept her away. So kudos to her for continuing her work, and you can also see her work on her blog, mirandaboire.com. So let me start by introducing our amazing women today. So first we have Amanda Cheng, who I'd like to call up. So Amanda is a pastry chef and co-founder of the Ming restaurant in Kitsilano. She's been working in kitchens for over a decade and graduated from UBC, and then after that attended the Culinary Institute of America. So if you're in this field, you know that that is a very prestigious culinary institution. After garnering experience around North America, she opened her Kiki dessert bar in Hong Kong. Longing to return to her hometown of Vancouver though, she created her own business, and she currently resides here in Vancouver, working alongside her husband at her restaurant, Ming. So welcome, Amanda. I'd also like to call up Jessica Porter. So Jessica is the principal and senior project manager at EcoHazmat. Jessica started a hazardous materials consulting career in 2008 and opened EcoHazmat in 2014 so that she could provide her clients with the highest level of care and service. She believes that all exposures to asbestos and lead are preventable, and that it is her duty and her calling and EcoHazmat's to find these hazards so that her clients can take action and keep people safe. Jessica is an AHERA certified building inspector, certified lead inspector, and certified lead risk assessor, as well as an awesome mom, as certified by her daughter. Outside of work, Jessica enjoys spending time in nature, evolving her yoga practice, paddleboarding, and flinging slugs out of her garden. So it's a variety of interests that Jessica will talk about. So with that, I'll turn it over to our two panelists to give us a little bit of thoughts and background about their experience, maybe starting with Amanda.
My parents owned a restaurant, so that definitely had influence on me. I didn't really want to follow in their footsteps because they weren't around much, but I think naturally I always had an inclination to food and cooking. And so even though like it's a hard road, I just had to do it. So yeah.
Amanda, maybe you could tell us a little bit about your segue between studying at UBC and then how you made the leap to decide to go to the Culinary Institute of America.
Well, I'm really glad I went to school. It definitely helped with like my critical thinking and just challenging myself and not always doing exactly what you want to do. But like I was living at home and my parents said they'd kick me out if I didn't go to school because they just wanted me to have a backup plan. And you know it's true. Like cooking is so physical. Like maybe I won't be able to do it in 20 years. So it's good to have like that backup. But like I enjoyed my time at UBC. So it was good. It made me realize that I really did want to go to cooking as well because it didn't get out of my system.
And Jessica, tell us a little bit about how you entered your field and why you decided to make the leap and start your own business.
Well, I grew up in Ontario and I moved to BC, and I was, at the time I was serving, I was obviously looking for a better career. I fell into hazardous materials consulting. I applied for a job and I got it. After being in the industry a while, I realized that I had different standards and I wanted to have control of my own future and the path that I was taking. So after 5 years in the industry, I made the leap to start my own company, and 5 years strong so far.
An interesting fact is, Megan talked a little bit about my background in construction and engineering operations, and in the city of Vancouver, there's about 2% women in that field. So raise your hand in the audience if you're part of the 2%. There's a few of you. Excellent. So similarly, your fields are traditionally male-dominated with hazardous materials abatement as well as in culinary arts and in running your own businesses. So it's pretty incredible that you come with this expertise to start your own small business. What were some of the key barriers that you would say that you faced early on that you had to overcome in your industry?
Some of the barriers. I obviously expected some discrimination, gender bias, harassment obviously is another big issue. I didn't expect to actually feel like I was going to be physically harmed. There were several times I did. How I coped with that is I started carrying a knife on site with my toolkit. Also, I think the best thing about starting my own company is I get to decide the culture that I provide to my clients, to my staff. I get to decide that I'm going to have a company that breaks the gender bias norms. Our policies, standards, and the way we treat each other is very important to me, and I think having the ability to have my own company, I get to decide how that is, how people treat me and how people treat my staff.
I think, yeah, there's definitely some similarities, but just the like really basic stuff, like maybe because I'm smaller, like a lot of men are physically stronger than me, and people always think, oh, the kitchens are so physical, but you don't actually need that much physical strength to do the job. But I think a lot of people think that. And then because most of the employers are men, they just think, oh, it'll be easier to work with people who understand me. But I think like, a lot of women are more understanding. So, you know, you just have to find the right environment to be in. Like if you don't feel comfortable in a certain kitchen, then just get out. There's always somewhere else to work.
A recent study also showed that about $117 billion of Canada's economy is based on small businesses, particularly small businesses owned by women. And it's a growing industry, and the ability to actually capture that capital is really important and a way to sort of reinvest in our women-owned businesses. What were your experiences just starting out, finding funding, even setting up your business structure? What sort of, again, challenges did you find, and what really worked well for you as a support system?
Well, restaurants are notorious for failing, so it's really hard to get money. But I was lucky that we have a business partner who just loves the industry, who loves food, and wanted a side project, so very blessed. And then, of course, my family who were like, okay, we know you're serious about it. Like, if we can help, we'll do our part. But even then, it's like, they're not that risky with their own money. They work really hard for it, so they knew, like, we'll help you a little bit, but you have to grow it on your own. And I think that's why we're a small business. Like, I wish I could just open, 10 something, but just one step at a time.
Yes.
For me, I decided just to take the leap. I went out on my own. I knew that I had a huge client base. From previous years, I went to different consulting companies, and then I realized that my clients were following me where I was going, and I was sort of done making everyone else all the money. So I took the leap, and they followed me. So luckily, my good client base, they allowed me to start my business. Didn't pay myself the first year and went into debt, but was very lucky that I do have good clients and big projects to fall back on. I also was a single mother at the time, so there's lots of programs. You can apply for grants, apply for everything, didn't get everything, but there's some options out there to look into as well if you want to start your own company, different programs.
So one of the things that was really interesting about both your bios is that you're, again, working in non-traditional careers. How do you see yourselves as trailblazers, and what are the biggest accomplishments that you're most proud of so far?
Well, I didn't think I was a trailblazer at first because there are a lot more women in the industry now. But I was really flattered to be asked to be here. So I looked more into it, and I did see some similarities in like the characteristics of a trailblazer, and definitely just like being really hardworking, and I think that, and the commitment to like what you're doing. So I think that was like it's hard for me to call myself a trailblazer, so it's a hard question for me to answer, but there are some similar traits, and it's just being really committed to what you're doing, being smart about it, working hard, never giving up.
I feel the same very much. That was actually the hardest thing to try and answer, like trailblazer. I
Just doing your
not
job.
for a loss, actually,
Yeah.
for a bit, and then realized that like I didn't like the path, so I'm creating a new path. So therefore, I guess by definition, that means I am a trailblazer. So after that, I was like, okay, so what makes me different, or things that I hold value in? That's I bring my own beliefs, my own knowledge and expertise. I really know that when I show up on site, I might be the only woman that they see in the day, in the week, in the month. I also don't see other women at work ever. So I know that I do represent other women, and I want to do a good job. I don't want to just do a good job. I want to be the best I can be. I want to be an expert. I want to show them that women are capable, women are strong, and that we are competent. I think that's what it means to me, and that's what I hope that I get to do every day at work.
Yeah, definitely not. Like I was thinking, like be the best you can be, but it's really being the best person you're. Like when you go to work, you should be the best one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd like to open it up to the audience a bit to ask some questions of our trailblazers. What are some things that you think are really powerful about their experiences? What would you like to know about them? Way in the back of the night.
How did you have the confidence to talk to the clients and ask them to come with you? How did that work?
I just asked flat out, said, I see that you followed me from one company to another. I want to start my own company, would you come with me? And they said yes, and once I had 2 really large clients say yes, I realized everyone else will follow me as well.
Yeah, sometimes I realize, confidence is so important because, like, even if you have the talent and the hard work, if you don't have the confidence, you can't take it to the next level. Because everyone's really hardworking, and in my industry, like, there's so many talented people, so many hardworking people, but what takes you the step above is confidence. And I always try to tell people it's like not just working as being a chef, but working as being like a confident human being. Like, you don't need to read more cookbooks. Maybe you should like try to work on yourself, and that'll make you better at your career. So not just think of work, but yourself as a whole.
Where does confidence come from for both of you? How do you sustain it in moments where you feel sort of you are having to go out on a limb?
I don't think I was confident growing up. Like, I was quite shy as well. But then I think like just doing a good job, and then people telling me, "Oh, like you're good," and I was like, "Okay, maybe I am." And then I started realizing like I was getting fed up with some of the things I was seeing. So I was like, "Okay, maybe I am better than this." And then you just have to tell yourself, like, be nice to yourself. Like, obviously you're doing a good job. If people think that, then there must be something there. And then if you portray confidence, you start to feel it as well. So sometimes it is like fake it till you make it. You just have to believe in yourself. A lot of people say that, but it's true.
And if you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to believe in you. So I think that is very important. I actually don't have very much to add to what you just said. I think that was really great, because if you don't go out there and show the best you and believe that you can do it, why is anyone else going to believe in you? You really need to take, your future into your own hands and believe in yourself. Show them that you can do it and believe that you can.
And I saw a lot of people that were a lot more confident than me that didn't have the same experience or skills. So I was like, oh, see, it is just a state of mind.
Yes. I saw a couple of other questions. If you can please state your name and question.
My name is Ani, and I want to ask about the increased number of women in trades. Because in the 1970s, I knew a woman who was training to be a carpenter, a non-traditional work. And just this last year, I live in a building where the internet services were upgraded, and it was 2 women from the BCNT program who came to do the rewiring or whatever it is that they do. So it seems as though there are more women who are in the trades now, but I hear you say that where you go, when you go, you don't see women. So I have a question on that. And when you talk about feeling afraid being on the site that you were carrying a knife, did you go to the employer and say, this is what I think is happening, and what are you going to do about it, and what can you do about it? Like, what action was taken by the company to deal with it?
Well, I'll answer your second question first. There's been instances where I've been like physically threatened in attics doing inspections and things like that. Sometimes I've gone to the clients, first I would usually go to the project manager and discuss it with them. Sometimes I was laughed at. Most of the time I was laughed at or told, that it wasn't serious. Now that I own my own company, I have the control to no longer have those clients. I get to choose who works with me and for me and gets my expertise. Not everyone gets me. They just don't. If they threaten me or my staff, it's a hard no right there. I have had other clients who there has been instances, and I told them what happened. They were very receptive. That person no longer is on site when I am there. They're really great. There's other instances where you can't necessarily go to someone because nothing was done, but it was perception. Those are a lot harder. That's why I tool belt. I do have a big knife. It's there. They see it. Just makes me feel better. Never had to use it, but it does make me feel better to know if I'm in the bottom of a ship somewhere, no reception, and someone comes down who's already made odd comments to me, and suddenly they show up in a mechanical room in the bottom of a tugboat. Like, that doesn't feel right. So there's things that people have done, and people have been very receptive. Others have not. As for women in trades? I think there are a lot more women in trades. There definitely is. I think one of the biggest issues is retaining those women in trades. There's not enough programs. There's so much going on right now, but keeping women in trades is one of the biggest issues that there is with women in trades. There's not enough mentors, there's not enough programs, there's not enough support. We need more support on all levels.
I would like to add to that the City of Vancouver just launched a women's equity action plan, specifically targeted at getting more women in the pipeline in trades, as well as retention programs as well. So you hit it on the head. If the work environment is hostile to women, or to anyone for that matter, then you're not going to see that retention and that uptake of women in the trade. So thank you for calling attention to that, and to the audience member for asking a question around that.
Yeah, I think trades is like, it's become a very practical choice. You know, there's so much work out there. So I think that's why there are more women in trades, but it is the retention. And like, I've heard of my friends who've like been in electricians and stuff. They've left because of starting a family and stuff. And so, you know, if you're not being paid well, it's like cheaper to stay at home with your child. Childcare is so expensive. We've all heard it, but it's true. So.
Yeah, and also your career. If you take time off, no one wants to say that this is the case, but the reality is you take time off in your career and there's a chance that you won't get promoted when you go back, or that you've lost that year, right?
Maybe replaced you.
Yes.
They've replaced you.
And I mean, you will have a job when you come back, thank goodness. And I love Canada. I think we have an awesome program that women can take time off and stay home with babies. And now they've even, I think it's gone to 18 months now that you can take the time off. And I think that's so important. I just wish that women didn't have to choose, and not all women do, between careers and staying home with their children.
So what are some of the systemic things that you think we can work on to support more women in non-traditional careers? You mentioned childcare, and the cost of childcare for any parent is a huge issue. You mentioned the retention piece and workplace culture and setting a really positive workplace culture. Are there other things that we should be
Actually,
thinking
have
about?
something written.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll we need more women in every role and every programs at every level. We need role models. There's a shortage of skilled trades, and an increasing participation of women in the labor force is doing very little to mitigate these shortages. And the retention of women in trades is a huge problem. We need government and industry leadership to break negative social beliefs. There's a need for better hiring and advancement practices on an organizational capacity, and to address bullying and harassment. We also need strong professional work networks with supportive mentors, supervisors, and peers. I think our community needs to encourage women to choose trades as a career. We as women need to raise strong, supportive children and rethink gender division that have traditionally separated boys from girls. We need to teach our daughters to stand up for themselves and to have a voice, and encourage our boys to have empathy.
Well said.
Yeah. I think reaching people when they're younger, like in high school. In high school, you know, we're just taught all the subjects, but we need to think more practically and like, what are we going to do next? And even like you hear about everyone with their bachelor's degree becoming baristas. Like, there's a lot of jobs out there that we don't know about. Like I was telling her, how did you get into your line of work? I never even knew that existed. So reaching people at a younger age, even like those commercials I've seen, like from the government with the female electrician, like, oh, I became an electrician and I'm raising my family. It's like, okay, like just to highlight that there are options out there, and that, yeah, it's for men and women, but definitely at a younger age, like in school.
I'd like to turn it back over to the audience for questions. I see a hand up over here. If you could state your name, please.
Hi, my name is Grayson. I just have a question. I work in the automotive industry, and I have somehow managed to become higher up in the industry. But when I look at my industry, I see no diversity. And when I look at other industries, I see women, but I still see no diversity. And for me, that's a problem. People tend to hire what they see every day when you look in the mirror. But it's so important to bring people up. So I'm just curious, because you're in these roles, do you do you consider mentoring, trying to mentor people that are not white? Because it's a hard thing. Like, I work in film. It's crazy, and I am a manager in film. And unfortunately, there aren't a lot of people who look like me in this city to begin with, but they're very reluctant to come into my field because they know how my field is to begin with. They also don't see anybody at the top that looks like them. So they think, well, why am I going to go into the industry?
You're such a role model.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah,
So,
I think people need to see
working
more.
on it. But I'm just saying, like, as women, I think it's so important to diversify this. And I'm just curious if you guys do anything to diversify this. Because I feel we're at this point in history where it's a make it or break it point. We're either going to band together to make sure that our rights and we see us in this thing, or it's going to go backwards. And at some point, like, when are we going to make this change to do this? And so I'm just curious if you guys have anything.
And for me, diversity is big. Like, I love hiring people, you know, all walks of life, because you learn so much from them. And it's, what was I gonna say? I was just thinking, like, I think that's why it's good for people to, you know, become their own boss, because then you can do those things. Like, it's hard to tell your boss to be more diverse or do this or that. It's like, you have to do it yourself. I don't see I think, you know, like what I was saying before, how like sometimes men like to hire men because they're more comfortable, and they're like, oh, well, it's just like hanging out with a brother. Like, they don't understand that actually diversity is like how we learn and improve ourselves. So, and even like for the staff, like when you have diversity, you know, you just, it's like instead of like traveling the world, you can just like talk to someone and learn so much without having to like leave the office. And I don't see why people don't understand that. Maybe, yeah, I think that people are comfortable, that's it, right? And then it's just up to us to slowly change that. I see it changing, I guess it just takes time. But getting ourselves like, you should accept the next step. Like, some people don't want the extra responsibilities of being a manager, but no, doing that, you can do more than just like.
I think in my case, when I walk into a tech survey and it's all men, my name is Grayson, they expect to see a man. I walk in and they're like, oh, go get us cookies. And I'm like, actually, I'm the location manager. And they're like, oh, you're Grayson. Yeah, I am. So there's a lot of weight
Yeah.
that I feel on my shoulders, where I feel some of my counterparts don't feel that weight.
Yeah.
And I mean, we had a conference on Saturday, so I'm going from one conference to the next conference. But I sat there and I looked at the panel. There was only one type of person on all three panels, and I was like, huh. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, that
as
weight
much
makes
as
you
everybody-
stronger though.
Yeah, it does, but
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it and I'm like, are we moving as forward as we're supposed to be? Are we doing enough? And I guess that was my question, is like, are we doing enough? Are people that are higher up in the industry doing enough? And how do we change that perspective? And how do we promote that perspective? Because it's only been proven that diversity improves the economy. Diversity improves the country. So, but yet, we look to the south, and we even look to some of our provinces that are very hesitant to move forward in that sense.
I don't think we are doing enough. I think that there's a lot more that can be done, and there's a lot more room we need to gap before we get there, or bridge the gap before we get there. I would love to hire women, any color, any race, any. I would love to work with women. I also haven't been a mentor to anybody. I've never been approached to be. I do want to do more. I will say that I have been not as an excuse, but been preoccupied making sure my company is running the way I want it to run, and being the kind of mother I want. Work-life balance is very difficult, but mentorship is a huge issue, and I know that I didn't have any mentors, I didn't have any support, and it's cutthroat. Women throw each other under the bus all the time to be part of the boys club, and I'm sick of it. I wish that wasn't the case, and it just is way too often. So I'm going to do more when I can, I hope that in the years to come that I can mentorship people, whether it's in trades or any way I can.
Yeah, we're definitely at a turning point, because, everyone, like us being here today, we're talking about it. And yeah, right now, I think that still there's a lot of, discrimination, and you have to look at the youth in the future. Like, we're the ones that are kind of still with the leftover baggage, but I do see a change. And then it's just up to us to, I guess, have to prove ourselves. And then when we're in those positions, then we can do what we want to see.
Be the change.
Yeah, be the change. But I think it is looking toward the future. Right now, there are still a lot of problems.
There was a great discussion this morning's session on women in leadership around the same question, around how do you look at and how do you approach your work from an intersectional lens, be it as a woman of color in a leadership position. Sometimes there's a bigger burden or a larger challenge around expectations and mentorship. And it's a great discussion that you bring up as well, because be the change means running your own company, setting your own organizational work culture, hiring among the principles that you believe are important, and stepping up in leadership roles. So thank you for being a manager and a leader in your field, and thank you for continuing to lead the way, because the more people that we see that are diverse in positions of leadership, then the more I think our young women and even young men will see the possibilities. So it's important, wherever you are in your career, to continue to be that mentor.
It takes time. You just have to be patient, I guess. Like my husband, he's Japanese, and people always just assume he makes sushi. Or it's like, oh, you're Chinese, why do you make French pastries? Or you should be working in the front of house. It just takes time, and people are changing. I see it every day.
With that, I would like to talk a little bit about hope. So you talked about the possibilities for the future and how to bring change. What do you see as most hopeful about your industry and how it's changing?
Most hopeful.
Well, I'm hopeful that more women will join trades, and that there'll be more programs to retain them. I'm hopeful that one day I can be a mentor and that I can help be that change, help walk women through some of the problems that I've gone through and that they're going through, make sure that they don't feel alone. Hopefully there'll be better outlets.
Yeah, I think more women are in cooking, but just to keep working towards that leadership role. And of course, there are going to be people who stop you, but you can either forge your own path or find the right company or group of people that will promote you to get there. And I think and it's not just, of course, women in leadership roles, it's just having good people at the top. They can be men or women. It's just we need people who are just very open-minded and don't see people from the outside.
And the more women we have in these industries, no matter what they are, the more acceptable it becomes, and it starts to change. People can see themselves. I can do that. She's doing that. Of course, I can do that. But I think the more women we have in roles, the better it'll be. And support.
I was just thinking, even my parents, when they immigrated here 50 years ago, they brought all their Chinese traditions and upbringing along, but you see how they changed, opening their eyes to different things, and they are different people, and so it changes. My dad was super religious or super traditional, and as the world changes, so will the people. It just takes time. He's 75 now.
You both talked a bit about work-life balance. I'm wondering, do you think work-life balance is a myth, or do you think it's something that you can control? And how do you incorporate work-life balance into your approach to your work?
I think in maybe a bakery, there's more work-life balance, but in a restaurant, especially owning the restaurant, I don't think there is. And I don't think we should feel guilty that, especially if you're a mother, you don't have to feel guilty about that, because that's just how the world works sometimes. And there are some mothers that can handle everything, but that's not everyone's situation, right? It doesn't make you a bad mother. It's just, that's how it is sometimes. I'm okay with no work-life balance, because I'm aiming for something, aiming for something I want to accomplish, and it takes all of my time, and that's okay.
I think let me think. I'm going to change my mind.
So she has a daughter and I don't have children, so it's easy for me to just stay at work all day. But if I had a child, I would make time for them because I think the future is, more important than small business.
And when you have, I started my company because I wanted to provide for myself and for my daughter, and I wanted a career that I had control of. That was very important. I didn't want someone else to decide how much money I made or when I got promoted or anything like that. So for a good 3 years, head down and work hard. That was it. But I made time from 5 to 8. Once I picked my daughter up, that was family time. 5 to 8 o'clock. No work calls. My clients knew it. No family time. She went to bed, then I had to work a lot. Now that the company is a lot more stable, I go to yoga every day. It is the best decision that I've ever made, making time for myself and self-care. I can't be a great boss, good at my job, and a mother if I don't make time for myself. So I kind of feel like my work life is not necessarily balanced. I don't think that exists. It's more like a flow. It goes in and out of work and is integrated in, and I have an awesome partner that really helps me as well, and using technology. We're really about working smart. We work hard, but we want to work smart, so we have different things to help us. I can go paddleboarding and still get my text messages on my watch. That's fantastic. Take an hour out of your day and go do things that you love to do, and you can still be connected. So if there are emergencies or things like that, you can take care of them. But I think it is really important to work hard and strive for your goals, and it does take a lot of work, but also self-care is important.
Yes, you should push yourself very hard, but not to the point of burning out. Because that's why I think a lot of women also leave the industry. Or actually just men and women in cooking. A lot of people leave the industry because of that. So it is about working hard, but there is like fine print.
Well said. We have time for a few more questions from the audience. Are there other things from the audience that you'd like to hear about? Yes.
Hi, I'm Lisa. My question is about, you both mentioned that it's all about being confident and believing in yourself, but there are times when you've been given a bit of a curveball or something's shaken you or someone questions your legitimacy. I was wondering what sort of support networks you use or how you overcome those, or what you do in those situations.
Tenacity. I think big advocate for standing your ground. If you're right. Sometimes I don't always feel like I am, but I've worked hard to gain the knowledge and expertise I have. So a lot of people argue with me or try and disagree, but they're wrong. And so you just really have to stand your ground and believe in yourself, although that's hard, or things do, life throws a curveball. I do have breakdowns. Sometimes that's very stressful, and I doubt everything, and then you just have to get back on the horse and no, I'm good at my job, I'm good at what I do. Just really, really believe that you can do it.
Yeah, I've been called stubborn a lot, and it really annoys me. Like, I actually had to look up the definition because I'm like, I don't think I am. It has such a negative connotation, and I don't think I'm unreasonable. And when so many people question you, maybe it is good to question yourself. So I do, and I still think, no, they just don't get it. Right? You have to be able to take criticism. That's one thing, but I am my own worst critic. So I'm like, it's not like I'm just saying things without thinking about them. Like, they are coming from somewhere, and I always try to weigh out the situation. So if you're your own worst critic, just don't listen to anyone else. I do listen, but it's like, I know myself, I know what's right and wrong, and then you just go with it. But yeah,
I think that's sticking to your belief systems as well. I think it's really important.
I saw a couple of hands up, I think over here. So thinking through some of the challenges that you've been through, and what advice would you give this audience in terms of sticking to your goals, even in times when it gets hard?
well, don't burn out. Yeah, because you always feel like you have to prove yourself. You do always have to be the hardest working one if you want to get to a certain position, but only what you can take, and your body will tell you that. And I've always been a team player, kind of compromising type. Sometimes I feel like, oh, I should listen to myself more. But it is hard to balance like just making a decision or like being a team player. So learning to do that is I think quite important.
I think goals are really important. I set goals for myself and my family and employees, and reevaluating those goals as well. Sometimes you will create a goal and you're really driven towards it. It's very important to reevaluate if that's truly what you want or if you need to shift it. Sometimes it's really hard. So,
Sorry.
no, go for it.
Oh, and sometimes like I try to remind myself that like a lot of people see me as successful, even though I'm very poor, and that's okay too. It's about finding what makes you happy, and so it's okay if you sacrifice one thing for another. I think there's a lot of sacrifice. You just have to think long term. I always tell my friends it's a marathon.
Yeah, play the long game.
Yeah.
Actually, that's something I say as well. Like, I play the long game. I'm not looking at tomorrow. I'm looking at, next year. What's down the pipeline? Is this where I want to go? Is this where I want the company to be headed? Sometimes I think it is, and then even though we've invested all this time and money into something, we're like, wait a minute, maybe this isn't the direction we want to go. And switching is not a bad thing. Change it up if it's not going to work. It's important to stick to your guns and, stay course, but also reevaluate if those are the things that really work for you. And if it's taking too much for me personally, then it might not be worth it. It's more than just career goals. You have to weigh it over the long run. Is this taking too much?
Yeah, reevaluating is a big thing. Because I think sometimes you go into things and feeling like you have to prove yourself, but it's okay if this isn't your path either. Like, we're very adaptable. We can find different paths. So you try your hardest, and if you're unhappy, then you move on. And it's okay at any age.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in both your cases that you also work in your business with your partners in your personal life. Do you mind if we ask, how do you navigate both the business and the interpersonal
It's
relationship?
the biggest challenge. And you keep hearing about all these stories, and I watch a Netflix documentary and the chef couple divorces. And I'm like, oh my God, this is our life. I think, I have to check myself a lot. It's easy to blame your partner, because with your staff there's a level of professionalism, and it's a lot easier to talk with family openly. But I just have to remember, okay, you love this person. Do you still love them? Then you should be nice to each other, and it's easy to blame each other. But just realize that we need to support each other and talk to each other positively. It's just probably like raising a family as well, right? Like, you want to discipline, but you don't want to bring people down.
Yeah. So I have to remember, this is your life partner, and you don't want to always speak nicely to them. I know that seems very basic, but remember how you're speaking to them. Be nice. This is your partner. I'm lucky. My partner's a debater, which I need in my life. When I try and come up with ideas or solutions. In my employees, I find a lack of people that will really come at me with all the different angles and debate with me. Obviously, if I'm debating something, I think I'm right. I need someone to come at me whether or not they think I'm right or wrong, or just arguing the other side of the debate. So for that, I find a lot of value in that. And I don't know if I'll ever get an employee that can debate with me like my partner can. So I think that's amazing. What also ends up happening is laying on a beach in Hawaii, we're talking about employee issues or payroll or whatever. So there is no, when you work with your partner, there is no cut and dry, you go home and that's done. It sort of integrates itself into all aspects of our life. But we're both okay with that, and that works. I also like what you said too, don't blame each other. That's not good.
I put a lot of responsibility on each other because we're in charge. So when anything goes wrong, it's always our fault. but I should probably be a little like nicer about it. Because I know like when I talk to my friends and they come home from work and then they complain about work with each other, but no one knows the backstory. So they're like, honey, you're right. Oh yeah, that guy is the bad one. But at work, I'm like, we can't lie about it because we're both there. I'm like, no, it's always our fault.
It's your company.
It's easy to blame the bad guy that your spouse has never met. That guy I work with, he's the worst. Actually, maybe it's just us.
One of the things that you also talked about in terms of being a business owner is negotiating. And that's often a skill that's seen as challenging for women. So you have to negotiate with your vendors, with your clients, with other business partners, sometimes even with the city for permits or things like that. So what are your tips around negotiation? How do you develop that skill? And
I love negotiating. Stand your ground. Already decide what your base level is and what you want, and then know you're probably not going to get what you want, but really try for it. And never go under. It's better to walk away from something than to go less than you've already decided before you make that phone call or before you go into a room. Always know that. I also think this is kind of just the point, but not a side thing. I also see that women apologize all the time for everything. If you're wrong, acknowledge it, that's fine, but stop apologizing all the time. Especially if you're trying to negotiate for something, don't be apologizing. That just discredits you a lot. So I would just say, negotiation is a huge thing. Stand your ground. Don't let people talk over you. Do yourself some justice and come out strong.
Jessica, what is an example of one of the toughest things you've had to negotiate?
I negotiate rates all the time for a few different labs. So,
That must be tough. Everyone wants a deal.
yeah, right?
I don't want a deal.
So, going and negotiating rates can be a bit tough. Usually I go in, telling them how much business I'll bring, being confident, and usually I'll walk away from the table. Actually, probably negotiating my truck was the hardest thing. I walked away, went in to sign something. The dealer told me one thing. That's not what you promised. My partner had already left, so I'm like, fine, I'll run home, and I left. They called me hours later, and they ended up getting a much better deal on my truck. But being able to walk away from the deal, I think, is really important. And often, they'll want your business, that they'll come back to you. It's not a bad thing to hang up the phone. Don't just hang up, but it's not a bad thing to get off the phone and be like, I don't know if this is going to work, because then you leaving them thinking of something, and they get to decide, like, do we want this? Do we want to work with this person? And usually they'll call back.
Yeah, I grew up as like a follower, kind of a pushover, so knowing that, going into like a negotiation situation, I just prepare myself. Like, you just write down what you have to have, and then if you don't get those, then that's fine. Because I tend to want to make people happy and say yes to everything. So, especially in that situation, you feel bad, or like, if they talk over you, you're kind of like, oh yeah, that's a fair point. So just, if you prepare ahead of time, then you don't get distracted or off. It's good to prepare, I guess, if you're like the nervous type, or kind of stepping into a situation you're not comfortable. So like, you don't always have to be confident in every situation, but just be prepared then if you're not confident. One or the other.
And what's the toughest thing you've had to negotiate?
Think of it. But you said the car thing. It's funny because you always hear that, right? Like the car salesmen want to take advantage of women because they don't know anything about cars. And it's true, I don't know anything about cars. But I shopped around and I went to one dealership and they said something, and I told the other one to match it, and they said they'd give me a better deal. But it wasn't. It was like, once I went home and looked at it again, I was like, I was like, they actually are cheating me, like so outright. And it's funny because it's like all on paper now. I printed it all out. So, I don't know, I've never had, I can't think of any, but I think I just usually try to prepare myself, because I do like to say yes a lot. Like, I want to make other people happy. I'm in hospitality.
Any other questions from the audience? Yeah.
So you talked a lot about sort of tenacity one for yourself when you had to kind of tease other people? Like, was there a sense of that you had to kind of hide that a bit, or has that always been something that's come out of your professional life?
I definitely felt like I was more reserved or I held back, but it didn't serve me at all. It often got me in lots of trouble. But I think at the end of the day, it has served me. Yeah, I do want to be fully myself and who I am, and sometimes I feel like that has to be, suppressed for like being professional, or maybe my employer didn't like what I said to a client or something like that. But I really, really believe that you have the right to defend yourself and respond to things how you see fit, especially when you feel your judgment or your person is being threatened. I think that you should be able to have full expression of that.
I think we have time for one more question, and then to close. Any other questions from the audience? Then I would like to ask this group, you talked about some of the key advice, key challenges of working in non-traditional careers for women as successful businesswomen in your own right. You've done a lot to be trailblazers. If you were to look back and say something to your 9-year-old self that you know now that you didn't know then, what would that be?
I would say that sometimes people call me and tell me that there's going to be changes in regulations or things like this, and I am reactive. I get off the phone and I have an action plan, and I just like go full tilt on like how I'm going to solve all these problems that don't even exist. I would definitely tell myself to take a breath, to stop. I should start yoga sooner in my life, and my meditation practice sooner, actually. That would be my advice to myself.
I think, yeah, mine would be just not to be so scared or like insecure. Like, I think if I was confident sooner, I would have accomplished more. And then I think when you're young, it was like you're scared to embarrass yourself, but then you realize it's not a big deal, or you just forget about it, right? Like doing stupid things, you don't want to look stupid. And then the sooner you learn that, I think the more you can get done, because then you're not worried as much, like a big worrier. So yeah, if I told myself at a younger age, like, don't worry so much, it's okay to look stupid. It's like, all those things you did in high school, it's like, who cares now? So just to work on being confident, and then whatever you do, it will work out, like any industry.
I would like to thank our 2 panelists again for your wonderful advice around challenges, overcoming barriers, seeking to be in the world your authentic self with confidence. Thank you to the audience for the great questions that you asked, and for being trailblazers in your own right. So with that, I'd like to